If you spend enough time walking in the woods of New Hampshire or Vermont, sooner or later you come upon old stone walls where no walls ought to be. They rise out of the moss in the half-light, and at first they seem almost accidental. Then you realize they are not. Somebody built them. Somebody wrestled those stones out of the frozen ground one by one and stacked them by hand to gather sheep, to hold pasture, to make shelter where there had been none. What stays with me is not simply that they are still there. It is that they remain after everything else is gone. After the sheep, after the fields went back to forest, after the people who built them are long forgotten, the walls remain, as if care, once given, does not entirely disappear. I've been thinking about those walls all week because of what Jesus says to us this morning. Not, I am the shepherd, though he will say that too, but first he says, I am the gate. In Jesus' time, a sheepfold was simply a stone enclosure where the flock sheltered through the night. Often there was no gate at all, just a gap in the wall. And when the sheep were gathered in at night, the shepherd would wrap himself in his cloak and lie down across the opening. His own body closed the fold. To reach the sheep, anything, wolf, thief, danger of any kind, would have to go through him first. So when Jesus says, I am the gate, he is not talking about hardware or a permanent fixture. He is talking about a life placed between the flock and everything that would harm it. He is talking about the kind of love that stays through the night. But here's the part that I think we really need to pay attention to. The shepherd does not lie across that opening so the sheep can stay enclosed forever. He lies there through the dark so that at dawn he can lead them out into pasture, out into open, out into the world. The sheepfold was only for the night. It was always meant to open at dawn. Friends, that is the Easter claim in its plainest form, because resurrection is not just being kept through the night, it is being led out into life. The shepherd who leads us through the death is the one who has gone through it ahead of us. It is what Jesus means when he says, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly, which in this gospel sounds more like pasture than prosperity. Enough food, enough water, enough room. The quiet sufficiency of enough, which turns out to be a radical word in a world forever insisting that enough is never quite enough. Psalm 23 has been telling this story all along. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. As we heard it this morning, I hope you noticed how it moved. Green pastures, still water, dark valley, a table set in the presence of enemies, a cup running over. It never stays in one place. It moves the way real life moves, always through, never around, always towards something. Even in the valley, the shepherd does not stop leading. The valley is not where the story ends. It is where the story goes through. And somehow on the other side, there is a table. There's a cup that cannot be emptied. And then there is this. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. I read this week that in Hebrew, the word used here for follow is also translated as pursue, which somehow feels more fitting. Goodness pursuing you, mercy tracking you down, not waiting patiently where you left it, but coming after you across whatever distance, whatever darkness, whatever direction you have been traveling. Most of us know something of what it is to not be looking for God, to be moving, if anything, in the opposite direction. And yet, looking back at those seasons in our lives, there is often something that can only be described as pursuit, a sense that God had not given up, was still quietly closing the distance. That may be the most honest thing I know about grace. It does not wait where you left it. And maybe that is where abundant life actually begins. Not in having everything arranged, not in finally arriving at some state of readiness, but in turning toward the voice that has been calling longer than we have known it, in allowing ourselves to be found, which is harder than it sounds, because many of us have grown genuinely attached to the shelter, even when it is cramped, even when fear is what built it, even when the morning is already there and the way out is standing wide open. We stop moving toward the things that once opened us up. We keep people at a careful distance after we have been hurt. But remember, we settle slowly and without quite meaning to for safety mistaken for life. For the sheepfold was only for the night. It was always meant to open at dawn. And the shepherd says, "Come out," not because there is nothing to fear, but because there is pasture, because there is more life than this, because there is a voice worth following into the open. Most of us know, too, what it is to stand at that same threshold and to hesitate. Some conversation we keep putting off, some step toward forgiveness or change or hope we have been circling for a long time. Faith in those moments may not be much more than trusting the voice, enough to take one small step through, and then another and another, out into whatever morning is waiting. Those old stone walls of the woods keep coming back to me. They are not monuments to enclosure. They are witnesses to the fact that shelter was always meant to serve life, not replace it. That the people who built them were not trying to keep the world out forever. They were trying to make it through the night so that the morning could come. And maybe that is Easter, not the denial of darkness, not a claim that the valley was never that dark to begin with, just the insistence, quiet, persistent, undefeated, that the shepherd keeps leading even there. That dawn comes, that the sheepfold opens, that the way forward opens into something real. I wonder what it would look like if we actually believed that. If we trusted the voice enough to step out from the shelter we have learned to love. What pasture might be waiting just beyond the threshold we keep standing at? What life might be out there on the other side of the walls that we have built to keep ourselves safe? The sheepfold was only for the night. It was always meant to open at dawn. Friends, maybe dawn is closer than we think. Amen.